Okay, hello, Tom Maguire. I'm just going to do a review on Ant Middleton's latest book, Zero Negativity. So I've done about 106 book reviews so far on YouTube. So I started doing book reviews a couple of years ago. One of the reasons I started doing it is because I really got into reading. I absolutely love personal development. I decided that getting in front of the camera and speaking as much as possible would be something that would do me good. It's helped me in my business. It's helped with my public speaking quite a lot. And my idea was always basically just crack on, just do as many as possible. It doesn't matter if they're not great. It doesn't matter if you look stupid. Just do it as often as possible. The more you practice, the better you will get, basically. I don't spend too much time on my reviews. I'm not going to pretend that I put hours of work in because I don't have time to do that, basically. I just do it to kind of concrete the information in my head from the book that I've already read, but also to try and just practice doing it and to get that information out there and kind of recorded somewhere so I can kind of refer back to it myself as well. But I try to be as honest. Well, I don't try to be. I am as honest as possible in my book reviews. So sometimes I will say things that people don't like very much, and that probably means that I get less likes and less followers, but I don't really care about that. I'd rather have a reputation for just being honest about the stuff that I read. And my passion and my mission in life is to get the best advice from the world of personal development out there to as many people as possible. Loads of people are struggling at the minute. I know people struggle all the time anyway. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you seem successful or not, you will have your own struggles in your life, things that you find difficult. So I think that personal development and taking that personal responsibility for your personal development is the best thing that you can do for yourself and for everyone around you as well. So this book, I have to say, is absolutely fantastic. It's the best one I've read of his so far. I think it seems like he's more kind of mature, more self-reflective. There's less of the kind of macho sort of stuff that there might have been a little bit of in the other books potentially. I've never found that too much with him, to be fair, but I just found this one, for me personally, much better advice. Fantastic advice for young people as well, and I will talk about why in a minute. I also felt a little bit emotional at times reading it, which is a bit strange, but I didn't actually cry, of course, but no, really, really, really good. So he gives a really honest account of when he's been at rock bottom in his life, which I really appreciated. And I really kind of felt kind of empathy for that. It felt like some of the stuff he's had to do and some of the things he's been through have been pretty horrendous. Which kind of makes it all the more impressive that he's achieved what he's achieved. He talks about change and how people struggle with change a lot. And he says that he goes out looking for it. He embraces change. He wants to grow. He wants to develop. He wants to put himself in difficult situations. Otherwise, he feels as though he's just standing still. And that's something that I talk about a lot in this channel. And that's really important. He talks about how important doing a mundane, boring job is as well. So many of us, I can't include myself in that anymore, but I have done in the past, have had boring, mundane jobs where you feel as though you're just working hard, relentlessly for someone else. This is something else that I'm really passionate about, helping people into better jobs and into starting their own business and things, because I feel as though the system doesn't really help people always necessarily to do that, and actually we're kind of encouraged to do things that we don't like, and we shouldn't be doing that if we can help it. But he makes the important point that if you are doing a job that you don't particularly enjoy and you find it boring, actually if you look for the positives, if you look for opportunities, there will be opportunities there, even for the most boring of jobs, which is really important. He gives some really good advice around walking away from fights and difficult situations, which I really appreciated. I think young people need to hear that. I know I could have done with hearing that when I was younger. You know, you quite often when you're young, you've got testosterone pumping, you feel the need to be the macho man and to not lose face and all of that. But actually when you grow up and you realise how life works, you realise you're far better off, and you're a far bigger person if you can just take it on the chin and walk away and just ignore people, basically ignore the negativity and get away from there. Basically, it doesn't mean you allow yourself to be walked on, but you just don't allow people to ruin your life or have a negative impact on you. He talks about jealousy being the most negative emotions, and talks quite a lot about that, which I thought was really important. I think that's really clear from what I've experienced as well, that when people are jealous, they want to bring other people down, they get consumed with that negative feeling, and they don't want to learn from other people, they just want to shut down. And just kind of, it's a real poison when it comes to personal development, basically. He talks about exposure, which I really liked as well. And he says about people who, you know, they might edge towards the edge of the cliff, but they might not decide to abseil. Well, actually, if they've got a massive fear of heights, then getting that little bit closer to the edge of the cliff is a success, is a victory for them. You know, it's small steps. Next time you might well have the balls to push yourself further and go over the edge. but actually don't beat yourself up for not necessarily completing the task. And he says that he sees life as that, as exposing yourself in small steps. And I completely agree with that. It's like a momentum thing. The more you do these little things to get towards where you want to be, the closer you're going to get, the more you're going to build that resilience and strength. So I think that's fantastic advice. He talks about qualifications and how qualifications on their own aren't really that important compared to experience. I completely agree with that. I think we live in a world where qualifications are overly respected. Unless you've got a qualification in this and that, then certain doors might not necessarily open for you, which is why I really enjoy entrepreneurship and business, because I feel as though you just make your own doors open. You know, you might not have a qualification, but if you've got the experience and you've got the ability to prove to people you can do what you do well, then doors will open. And I think that's a message we need to get across to our young people as well. So yeah, I'm not dissing qualifications. They are important, of course, but it's not the only thing. Experience is really important as well. And he's obviously a guy who's hugely experienced. He's experienced some amazing stuff in his life, and the stories that he tells in this book and his other books are really important. What else? So he talks about being really uncomfortable in front of the camera since he started doing SAS Who Dares Wins, and how he made himself do it as much as possible because he knew that he had to sort of improve it. He had to get more used to it. And he says when he does become completely comfortable, then he'll know that it's time to go and do something else, which I think is a really good message to give as well. I thought it was really nice that he talked about the fact that he would like to be an actor, potentially, and he acknowledges the fact that he's nowhere near there at the minute. He says, you know, he's got a long way to go, but actually, who'd have thought years ago that he'd have been on TV at all? So he just thinks, actually, why not aim for the next thing? To be an actor would be fantastic. I thought that was a real nice bit of honesty. I really appreciated that. He talks about exercising the problem-solving muscle and sees problem-solving as something that kind of isn't as prevalent as it used to be in our society. We've got our phones, we've got all these comforts that stop us from actually using our heads and thinking outside the box, which I think is really important. And that kind of makes me think about how I bring up my kids a little bit more, kind of give them a little bit more rope to kind of make mistakes and learn how to solve problems themselves a little bit more, which is something I try and do anyway, but I'll try even more so now. Fantastic description he gives of his near-death experience on Everest. That was something he talks about in a fear bubble. And that was fantastic. You really feel cold listening to him when he's talking about it and how he's nearly dead and he almost jumps off the mountain to finish it all. But actually, in the end, he just finds a tiny flame of positivity that just keeps him going. And I really kind of shivered and shuddered to listen to that description, because it really did make me feel as though, God, I don't know how would you necessarily cope in that situation if your body is actually shutting down? But, you know, just finding that hint of positivity and motivation to drive you on, can you just keep pushing until physically it's not possible anymore, rather than just giving up? So fantastic. What else? He talks about COVID and the lockdown and how he started off feeling that we needed to get out there and face the threat, and people shouldn't have been so chicken and need to get out there and stop cowering away at home. And then he realised that was a mistake because as things got worse, he realised it was actually braver to stay at home. And he realises that after years and years and years of working 80, 90-hour weeks, that actually it gave him an opportunity just to be at home, in the home that he'd worked hard to buy, and with his family, who he didn't actually get to see very often, and gave him loads of opportunity to self-reflect, and ideas came to him. And that's a really important aspect of personal development as well. It's really, really important to work hard, but it's really important to stop and give yourself that time to sort of meditate and think about things as well, because that's when ideas come to you. And he acknowledges that in the book, which I thought was really nice. It gave a bit more balance to his kind of hard-hitting, go-getter kind of attitude that he always has. I thought it was nice to hear that from him. He also talks about going into the jungle for one of his shows. I can't remember which one it was, but he went into the jungle. And I love this because my granddad was a sergeant in the RAF regiment, and he fought in Japan in the Second World War. So he always used to tell us stories about the jungle and burning leeches off with cigarette ends and living in foxholes, and the Japanese shouting out, calling Johnny to try and lure you out, and yeah, whatever. These horrible stories that he used to tell us. But that kind of felt a little bit emotional to hear him talking about the jungle, because I just kind of thought, wow, that must be really tough. But I'd kind of like to experience it, but I wouldn't at the same time. I sort of just think it's amazing what those men went through back in the war as well. But it was just good to hear Ant talking about that. Basically, it was nice. What else? Yeah, talking about his kids, I thought was fantastic. That gave some really nice insight. He talks about how he pushes his kids to be motivated and to be risk takers. And he lets his daughter go up a ladder and then jump off so he can catch her and stuff. And I just thought that was really nice. yeah, it just kind of showed to me what is more important to him. He says how he's driven by his family and by his kids and stuff, which I thought was really nice, and that's something that I completely relate to as well. So yeah, I think Ant Middleton is fantastic. I think he's a really good role model to not just young people but older people as well. I think there are times when I kind of listen to him and I think, God, he doesn't half think he's the hardest man in the world. And sometimes that irritates me a little bit because I like hard men to sort of be a little bit modest and stuff. And sometimes I just get that sensation from him. But he is who he is. He's a strong character basically, and he's obviously very good at what he does. And I think he's going to go from success to success and absolutely fly. I just hope he manages to stay humble and keep his eyes on what's most important, which is kind of obviously his family, but also getting the message out there to people who need it. Because I think actually if you can be a real game changer and actually change society for the better, then you really have achieved something, never mind being an actor or multimillionaire or whatever else. If you can change people's attitudes and change society, then you've really done well. But I think he probably will do that. Fantastic book. I absolutely loved it. Go and buy it. Reading it was really good. I quite often listen to audiobooks, so I might well listen to this at some point as well, because I think it's worth giving it another go. But yeah, please follow me on Facebook at Maguire Total Coaching, and please like and subscribe for this video. Cheers.